Man imagines standing in the middle of millions of people, all moving in absolute unity, no ego, no status, no money separating anyone, just raw humanity in its purest form. That's Mecca. That's what Colin and I witnessed. And I'll tell you, it shakes you, it humbles you, and it forces you to rethink everything you thought you knew about life, spirituality, and even yourself. It's not a vacation. It's not tourism. It's something deeper, like stepping into the heartbeat of humanity itself. You know what really blew my mind standing there in Mecca? It was this overwhelming sense of unity, like a wave of humanity all moving together, breathing together, existing together without the walls we normally put up in daily life. In our world, we're constantly told we're different. By politics, by culture, by the color of our skin, by the size of our bank account, we get sucked into this illusion that we're all separated by invisible lines, competing in some kind of endless game. But in Mecca, man, all of that just falls apart. Everyone is dressed the same, simple white cloth, no logos, no fashion statements, no status symbols. It's like a reset button for the human ego. You can't tell if the guy next to you is a billionaire or a janitor, a CEO or a farmer, and in that moment, you realize none of it matters anyway. What matters is that you're just human, standing shoulder to shoulder with other humans, moving as one, and think about how rare that is in daily life. Take your average morning commute. You're surrounded by strangers, yet everyone is locked in their own bubble, headphones on, eyes down, not making contact. You could be shoulder to shoulder with people every day on the subway or in traffic, but there's no unity there. It's just survival, everyone waiting for it to be over. But in Mecca, when you're shoulder to shoulder, you feel this deep bond, like you're part of something eternal. And it hits you. Why don't we live like this everywhere? Why do we wait until a sacred space to finally see each other as equals? It makes you question ego. In normal life, people are obsessed with flexing, designer clothes, cars, watches, titles. But imagine stripping all that away and realizing none of those things can stand in the face of real human connection. Standing there, I thought about how many times I let my own pride or my need to be someone get in the way of just being with people, just connecting. Unity forces you to let that go, to dissolve into something bigger than yourself. And there's something incredibly freeing about that, almost like exhaling after holding your breath for too long. The craziest part is it's not just spiritual, it's practical. Unity is what we're starving for in daily life. Look at the world right now. Division everywhere, arguments over politics, culture wars, families breaking apart over opinions. And yet, when you see millions of people move in harmony without words, without fights, you realize it's possible. It's not just a dream, it's a reality that exists if we choose it. And that choice doesn't require Mecca, it requires us to drop the masks we wear every single day. Imagine if you walked into your job tomorrow and instead of seeing a boss or employee, you just saw another human being like you. Imagine if in traffic, instead of cursing the guy who cut you off, you remembered he's fighting battles you know nothing about. That's the kind of unity that changes societies, not just individuals. And I think that's what hit me hardest. It's not about religion alone, it's about perspective. When you're in that crowd, you stop thinking in terms of me and start thinking in terms of us. And how often do we do that in our lives? Most of the time, we're stuck in our heads thinking about what we need, what we don't have, what we want next. But in that moment of unity, you realize your problems aren't so unique, your struggles aren't so isolating. Everyone is carrying weight, everyone is human, everyone is fragile. That's the beauty of it. You don't feel smaller, you feel connected. It's like suddenly you're not fighting alone. And if you carry that lesson back into your daily life, it changes the way you treat people. It makes you slower to judge, quicker to listen, more patient, more forgiving. You stop asking, what do I get out of this interaction? And start asking, how do we grow from this? And when you live that way, even in small daily acts, holding the door for someone, smiling at a stranger, helping without expecting, you're living a piece of that Mecca unity in the real world. And honestly, man, that's what people are hungry for. Not more money, not more likes, not more recognition, but that deep sense that we belong to each other, that we're all moving through this storm of life side by side, not against each other. When I talk about the raw energy of faith in Mecca, I'm not talking about something you can just describe with words. It's something you feel like electricity in the air that gets inside your skin and into your bones. You stand there surrounded by millions of people, and you realize they're not just moving, they're not just chanting, they're pouring every ounce of their heart into something bigger than themselves. And it doesn't matter if you're a believer or not, the sheer force of that faith hits you in the chest like a wave, and you can't ignore it. It's like standing too close to a bonfire. You might not be the one who lit it, but the heat is undeniable, and it changes you. Think about how in everyday life we're always looking for energy. People drink coffee, slam energy drinks, scroll endlessly on their phones looking for something to spark them, something to wake them up from the dullness. But in Mecca, that energy doesn't come from caffeine or adrenaline, it comes from devotion. You feel people crying, praying, raising their hands, whispering their deepest hopes into the night sky, and it's so real, so raw. It makes you wonder how much of your own life you've been sleepwalking through. Faith there isn't a quiet belief tucked away in the back of someone's mind. It's alive, it's moving, it's pulsing, and when you stand in the middle of it, you realize that's the kind of energy human beings are starving for. And it makes you think about how often we chase the wrong kind of energy in life. We look for it in material things, a new car, a promotion, a bigger house. We get it for a little while, sure, but it fades. It slips through your fingers the second you grab it. But the raw energy of faith, that doesn't fade. You see someone who is nothing. Maybe they came from a village where the floor is dirt and the roof leaks when it rains, and yet they stand in Mecca with tears on their face, overflowing with gratitude. That kind of power makes you stop and ask yourself, if they can feel that much joy with so little, what excuse do I have for walking around empty? The raw energy of faith is also discipline in action. Think about the rituals, the prayers, the circling of the Kaaba, the fasting, the patience it takes to endure the heat, the crowds, the endless movement. None of it is easy, but when you see millions of people doing it, not out of force, but out of love, out of devotion, it flips something in your head. It makes you realize discipline isn't punishment. It's freedom, the same way an athlete trains every day, not because it's fun, but because it transforms their body. Faith transforms the soul through consistent effort. And in Mecca, you can see that transformation happening in real time, not in one person, but in an ocean of humanity. And then there's the silence inside the noise. Imagine millions of voices, millions of footsteps, all at once. But instead of chaos, it feels like music, like rhythm. That's the raw energy of faith. It creates order out of what should feel overwhelming. In daily life, when you're stuck in traffic or sitting in a crowded airport, that kind of noise makes you anxious, impatient, irritated. But in Mecca, the same kind of crowd doesn't frustrate you, it calms you. Because you realize everyone is there for the same reason, moving with the same purpose. And isn't that the difference? Noise without meaning drains you, but noise with purpose fuels you. It makes you reflect on your own life and the way you approach struggle. We all face hard times, moments that feel unbearable, moments when the world feels too heavy to carry. But what if you approach that pain with the same raw energy of faith, trusting that it's shaping you, that it's not breaking you but preparing you? You'd see hardship differently. You'd stop asking, why me? And start asking, what can this teach me? That shift alone could change the way you live, the way you wake up in the morning, the way you carry yourself through each day. And when you leave Mecca, that energy doesn't stay behind. It lingers in your chest like a fire that refuses to go out. It whispers in your ear when you're tempted to complain. It reminds you to be grateful when life feels unfair. It gives you strength when you think you've got nothing left. That's the raw energy of faith. It's not fragile. It's not temporary. It's a current that once you tap into, it keeps moving through you, reshaping the way you see the world and the way you see yourself. Ego death in Mecca isn't just some abstract spiritual idea. It's something you can literally feel dissolving inside you. When you step into that place, when you're surrounded by millions of people, all dressed the same, all circling the same sacred center, something in your mind begins to unravel. All the little ways you've defined yourself in daily life start to look ridiculous. You're not the job title you've been clinging to. You're not the brand of car you drive. You're not the number of followers you've collected online. Those things that seem to matter so much out there in the world, they collapse in a moment, because in Mecca, none of it has weight. The only thing that matters is that you're human, stripped down, equal to everyone around you. In our daily lives, ego runs the show more than we realize. Think about it. How many arguments are really about truth, and how many are just about not wanting to lose? not wanting to look small. How many purchases are really about need, and how many are about showing off, about trying to feel bigger in someone else's eyes? We chase validation in 100 little ways: better clothes, fancier restaurants, louder opinions. But in Mecca, the ego is exposed for what it is: fragile, desperate, and ultimately meaningless. You watch people who would never stand in line back home, who would never sit in the dust, who would never let go of control, doing exactly that. Billionaires and beggars shoulder to shoulder, and you realize ego has no currency there. And that's the lesson. Ego isn't strength, it's actually weakness disguised. It's fear dressed up as confidence. We cling to ego because we're afraid of being nothing, afraid of being unseen, afraid of being small. But in Mecca, you discover the paradox. When you let go of ego, when you let yourself be nothing, you actually feel the strongest you've ever felt. Because you're no longer fighting to defend a mask, no longer exhausted from keeping up appearances. There's a freedom in admitting you're just another human among humans, nothing more, nothing less. Take it back to daily life, and you can see the power of ego death everywhere. Imagine how many conflicts in relationships would disappear if you weren't so busy protecting your pride. How many times have we let stubbornness destroy peace because we couldn't just say, "I'm sorry," or "I was wrong"? Ego makes us fight battles that don't need to be fought. It makes us carry grudges like heavy stones we don't even notice anymore. But when you let the ego die, you suddenly find lightness. You find room for compassion, for forgiveness, for connection. You realize you don't always have to win. You don't always have to be right. You don't always have to be seen. Sometimes the most powerful thing is to be still, to be quiet, to be nothing in the moment. Ego death also changes how you see success. So often people climb ladders, chasing recognition, chasing applause, thinking if they just get to the top, they'll finally feel worthy. But the top is lonely when you build it on ego. You get there and realize you're still empty, still hungry, still desperate for more. In Mecca, you learn that the only lasting fulfillment comes not from being above others, but from standing with others, from dissolving into the crowd instead of rising above it. It teaches you that real greatness isn't about being seen, it's about serving. It's about impact, not image. And the truth is, ego death doesn't just happen once. It's not like a switch you flip. It's a practice, a constant reminder. It's catching yourself when you're posting just to impress. It's checking yourself when you feel anger rise up because your pride got hurt. It's noticing when you want to dominate a conversation instead of listen. Ego death is the daily practice of asking yourself, am I doing this to connect, or am I doing this to be seen? And the more you practice it, the more you realize ego was the cage all along. It kept you chasing, competing, comparing, exhausting yourself in a race that never ends. When you let it go, suddenly you're free, free to love without keeping score, free to fail without shame, free to walk through life without constantly needing to prove your worth. That's the kind of freedom that no money, no title, no achievement can give you. It's the freedom of finally being enough without the mask, of finally realizing you don't have to be somebody, you just have to be. Discipline and devotion in Mecca isn't just about rituals or routines. It's about reshaping the way you understand effort and purpose in life. When you're there, you see people walking for miles in the heat, circling the Kaaba again and again, standing in prayer for hours, fasting with patience, moving with a rhythm that seems impossible to maintain. And yet, no one complains. No one says it's too hard. Because when devotion drives you, discipline isn't a burden. It becomes a privilege. That's the lesson most people miss. We live in a world where discipline is treated like a punishment, like something you have to force yourself to do. But in Mecca, you realize discipline is the purest form of love. Think about how it applies to daily life. Take an athlete who wakes up at 5 a.m. every day to train. People look at that and say it's sacrifice. But the athlete doesn't see it as loss. He sees it as devotion to his craft, his purpose. The same thing happens in Mecca. Devotion fuels every step, every prayer, every sacrifice. And it teaches you that if you care enough about something, discipline isn't hard. It's natural. When the purpose is big enough, the struggle transforms into strength. Most people fail in life not because they don't have talent, but because they lack discipline. We all say we want change, we want success, we want peace. But when it comes time to show up every day, to do the hard work, to repeat the small steps consistently, we quit. Mecca shows you what consistency looks like when the heart is all in. Millions of people repeating the same steps, not once, not twice, but over and over, and instead of being drained, they're uplifted because devotion gives meaning to discipline. The real motivation is this: discipline without devotion feels empty, but devotion without discipline is just a dream. In Mecca, they merge, and that's what we need in our lives. You can say you want to be healthier, but without the discipline to move your body daily, devotion is just words. You can say you love your family, but without the discipline to show up, to listen, to sacrifice, devotion is hollow. Mecca teaches that devotion has to be proven in action, and action has to be carried by devotion, otherwise it won't last. Look at how people live their daily lives back home. We set alarms and snooze them. We make goals and break them. We promise ourselves change, but we negotiate with excuses. Imagine if we treated our goals the way pilgrims treat their rituals, with unshakable devotion. Imagine telling yourself, no matter how tired I am, no matter how hot it is, no matter how long it takes, I will do this because it matters. That's discipline and devotion in action. There's also humility in discipline. In Mecca, the steps are the same for everyone. No shortcuts, no VIP line. Devotion levels the playing field, and discipline carries everyone equally. That's another daily life lesson. We all want shortcuts. We want the quick path to success, the fast way to money, the easy fix for problems. But the truth is, the real growth comes from walking the long road with consistency. Just like in Mecca, you can't skip the steps, you can't fake the rituals. And in life, you can't skip the process. Every rep in the gym, every late night of studying, every uncomfortable conversation you face, that's your discipline. And if you fuel it with devotion, it transforms you. And it's not just about big achievements, it's about the small daily disciplines that shape who you are. Waking up early when you don't want to, choosing kindness when it would be easier to snap in anger, saving money instead of spending recklessly, being honest when lying would benefit you more. Those are the small rituals of life, and when you commit to them with devotion, you build a character that's unshakable. The beauty of Mecca is that it shows you the connection between devotion and endurance. People endure heat, exhaustion, discomfort, and yet their faces glow with peace. Why? Because devotion transforms struggle into purpose. Imagine if you approached your hardships like that. Instead of seeing them as punishment, you saw them as proof of your devotion to your goals, your family, your growth. The hard days at work, the grind, the sacrifices that stop being something you resent and start being something you're proud of. Discipline and devotion, when they're combined, become unstoppable. They create momentum in life that no obstacle can break, and that's what you witness in Mecca. Not just faith, but a living example of how humans can achieve the impossible when their hearts are devoted and their actions are disciplined. Discipline and devotion are two words that most people hear but rarely live. And when you witness them together in Mecca, it's like watching human potential at its highest level. You see men and women, young and old, rich and poor, moving through rituals that demand patience, energy, and perseverance, and they do it with such humility and determination that it changes the way you think about what's possible. The heat is intense, the crowds are overwhelming, the distance is exhausting, but when you are fueled by devotion, discipline doesn't feel like struggle, it feels like purpose, and that's the secret we often miss in daily life. Discipline by itself can feel heavy, like a burden, like forcing yourself to do something you don't want to do. But when devotion is added to it, when the heart is invested, discipline transforms into something powerful, almost effortless, because you know why you're doing it. Think about the way most people live. We want results without repetition. We want strength without training. We want success without sacrifice. But life doesn't work like that. If you go to the gym once and expect to transform your body, you'll be disappointed. If you study one night and expect mastery, you'll fail. Discipline is what carries you day after day, step after step, even when you don't see instant results. And devotion is what keeps you from giving up when the journey feels too long. Mecca shows this truth in the most real way possible. People walk for miles, repeat the same prayers, circle the Kaaba again and again, and none of them complain, because devotion makes the repetition sacred. There's a lesson in that for every person chasing something in life. If you only show up when it's easy, you'll never reach greatness. Discipline is showing up when you're tired, when you're unmotivated, when no one is clapping for you. Devotion is remembering why you started in the first place. Together, they build momentum. Every small act compounds, every repeated effort adds weight. And one day you look back and realize the discipline you once resisted has become the foundation of your strength. Imagine a student preparing for exams. The temptation is always there to procrastinate, to distract, to say, I'll do it tomorrow. Discipline says, sit down and study now. Devotion says, remember why you're studying, to build a future, to honor your family, to unlock opportunities. Without discipline, devotion stays a dream. Without devotion, discipline feels like torture. Together, they make the impossible possible. Mecca also strips away excuses. In daily life, we love to say, I'm too busy, I'm too tired, I don't have time. But when you see an elderly man with a cane walking slowly, step by step, refusing to quit, you realize time and energy are not the problem. Devotion is. When your heart is fully committed, you will find a way. Think about how this applies to fitness, relationships, business, or even personal growth. If someone can endure hours in the heat with aching legs, surely you can endure 30 minutes at the gym. If someone can circle the Kaaba 7 times without complaining, surely you can repeat small daily actions that move you closer to your goals. The beauty of discipline and devotion is that they create character, not just results. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you are shaping a stronger version of yourself. Every time you choose devotion over distraction, you are strengthening your purpose. And over time, that combination makes you unshakable. People often ask how to build confidence, how to stop doubting themselves, how to stay motivated. The answer is simple but not easy. Keep showing up and keep remembering why. Confidence doesn't come from empty words. It comes from proof. Proof you give yourself by being disciplined. Proof you feel in your heart by being devoted. In Mecca, you see this proof everywhere. People push through exhaustion. They resist distractions. They give their all in every movement. And it's not because someone is forcing them. It's because devotion is alive in them. Daily life would transform if we lived the same way. If you treated your health, your family, your dreams, your responsibilities with the same seriousness, you wouldn't be living a half-hearted life. You'd be living a life of depth, of impact, of strength. Discipline and devotion teach you that greatness isn't built in one big leap. It's built in small, repeated steps taken with commitment. Every prayer, every step, every act of patience in Mecca is a reminder that consistency beats intensity, and that's what we need to remember every single day. Success, peace, fulfillment, they don't come from what you do once, they come from what you do consistently, with devotion fueling you and discipline carrying you through the days when your mind wants to quit. Silence inside the chaos is something you can only really understand when you've stood in Mecca, when you've been surrounded by millions of voices, millions of footsteps, the sound of prayer rising and falling like waves, and yet somehow deep inside there's unshakable calm. It's almost like standing in the middle of a storm but being untouched by the wind. Your body feels the crowd, your ears hear the noise, but your heart finds a stillness that doesn't exist anywhere else. And the lesson is so clear. Peace isn't about escaping chaos, it's about finding stillness in the middle of it. In daily life, we think peace means sitting on a beach, far away from work and problems, or locking ourselves in a quiet room with no distractions. But life doesn't stop being loud. There's always something demanding your attention. Phones buzzing, deadlines chasing you, arguments pulling you in, thoughts running endlessly. If you wait for silence outside, you'll never find it. The truth is, you need silence inside. You need the ability to stand in traffic, to sit in a noisy office, to face family arguments, and still have that calm center that doesn't get shaken. That's what Mecca teaches. Imagine standing shoulder to shoulder with strangers from every corner of the world, the heat pressing down on you, people moving in every direction, chants and prayers echoing, and yet inside you feel a calmness, like the noise is happening on the outside, but you're anchored deep within. That's what happens when you let go of control. Most of our chaos comes not from what's happening outside, but from how tightly we try to control it. In Mecca, you can't control the crowd, you can't control the pace, you can't control the environment, so you learn to surrender. And when you surrender, the chaos loses its grip on you. And isn't that exactly what most of us need in daily life? We get so stressed trying to control traffic, trying to control people's opinions, trying to control every outcome. And it only creates more chaos inside us. But what if instead of fighting it, you learn to anchor yourself? What if you could breathe in the middle of conflict? What if you could hold peace while the world shouted around you? That's strength, not the strength to dominate, but the strength to stay centered. Think about an athlete in the middle of a big game. The crowd is roaring, the clock is ticking, everything is on the line. Most people would collapse under that pressure. But the best athletes find silence inside the chaos. They block out the noise. They slow down in their mind. They focus only on what matters. That's why they perform when everyone else freezes. Life is the same. You can either let the noise drown you, or you can find the silence that allows you to act with clarity. Mecca shows you it's possible because it's the loudest, busiest place, and yet it feels like the quietest. And the reason is purpose. When everyone is moving for the same reason, when the chaos has meaning, it transforms into rhythm, and that's a powerful lesson too. Chaos without meaning is stress. Chaos with meaning is beauty. Think about raising kids. The house is never quiet, toys everywhere, noise constant. But if you see it as chaos, it frustrates you. If you see it as a sign of life, of love, of growth, suddenly that noise becomes music. The chaos hasn't changed, your perspective has. Silence inside the chaos also means you don't let external noise dictate your internal state. How many times do we ruin our day because someone cut us off in traffic, or because a coworker said something rude? That's letting the outside chaos invade the inside. But when you build that inner silence, nothing outside can steal your peace. You hear the insult, but you don't absorb it. You face the problem, but you don't panic. You walk through the storm, but you're not shaken. That's not weakness. That's mastery. In Mecca, you learn that silence doesn't mean the absence of sound. It means the presence of peace. And when you carry that lesson back home, you realize you don't need the world to quiet down for you to feel calm. You can be calm while the world is loud. You can be steady while life shakes. You can be still while everything around you moves. And when you live that way, nothing has the power to control you anymore because you've found the silence inside the chaos. Life recalibration is what happens when you walk away from Mecca, and it doesn't feel like leaving a city. It feels like leaving another dimension, like stepping out of a dream that was more real than reality itself. Your whole perspective shifts because everything you thought was important suddenly looks small, and everything you used to ignore suddenly feels huge. Recalibration means your inner compass resets. The noise of daily life fades, and you see with new eyes what truly matters. It's like your soul got unplugged and recharged at the same time. In Mecca, you're stripped of the distractions that usually control your life. No endless scrolling, no chasing after status, no comparing yourself to the next person. Everyone is the same, and everyone is there for something bigger. When you come back home, it's almost shocking how much energy people waste on things that don't matter. Arguments about politics, obsession over material things, bitterness over small insults. Recalibration teaches you to pause and ask yourself, is this worth my peace? Is this worth my time? Is this worth the energy of my one short life? Most of the time, the answer is no. Think about it. How often do we live on autopilot? We wake up, rush to work, chase deadlines, spend money, try to impress, try to escape, then repeat. And we wonder why we feel empty, why life feels flat. Recalibration breaks that loop. It forces you to step outside the cycle and see it for what it is, a treadmill that never ends unless you choose to step off. In Mecca, you see people who own almost nothing, yet they radiate peace and gratitude. Then you think about someone with a big house, multiple cars, vacations, yet still restless, still unhappy. Recalibration makes you realize happiness isn't about addition, it's about subtraction, subtracting ego, subtracting greed, subtracting the endless chase for more. Daily life examples make this hit hard. Imagine you're sitting in traffic, horns blaring, people cutting each other off. Normally you get angry, frustrated, maybe curse under your breath, but after recalibration, you see it differently. Instead of focusing on being stuck, you focus on the fact that you have a car, that you're alive, that you're breathing. You let the small frustrations pass because you've touched something so much bigger. Or imagine an argument at home, words flying, pride rising. Normally, you'd fight back, defend yourself, make sure you win. But recalibration whispers, what's the point of winning the argument if you lose the peace of your home? Suddenly, you choose silence, you choose patience. Because you've learned what truly matters. Recalibration also changes how you chase goals. Before, success might have meant being seen, being admired, being envied. But now, success looks like peace of mind, meaningful relationships, a life of service. You start asking yourself not, how much can I get, but how much can I give? Not, how can I be admired, but how can I be useful? That change alone can transform your career, your family, your friendships. Because people feel when your energy shifts from self-centered to purpose-centered. And here's the mind-blowing part: recalibration makes small things beautiful again. The sunrise you used to ignore on your way to work suddenly feels like a gift. A simple meal with family feels richer than any luxury dinner. Time becomes more valuable than money. Presence becomes more precious than possessions. Recalibration slows you down enough to notice life. And noticing life is what makes it meaningful. So many of us are running fast, but in the wrong direction. Recalibration turns you around. It doesn't take away ambition, it just refocuses it. Instead of chasing what fades, you start building what lasts. Instead of filling your calendar, you start filling your soul. Instead of needing validation, you start living in alignment with your own truth. In Mecca, the rhythm of prayer, the sight of millions moving as one, the silence that sits inside the noise, it all rewires you. And when you come back to your world, you realize nothing outside has changed. The traffic is still there. The deadlines are still there. The bills are still there. But you have changed. You carry a calm that doesn't depend on circumstances, a clarity that cuts through noise, a strength that no one can take away. That's what life recalibration really is. It's not escaping reality. It's coming back ready to live it the way it was always meant to be lived. When you walk away from an experience that recalibrates your soul, the true test begins not in that sacred place, but in the ordinary grind of daily life. It's easy to feel inspired when the air is heavy with prayer, when millions move together with a single heartbeat, when silence itself feels holy. But the real question is, what do you do when you return to your normal days, your responsibilities, your struggles? That is where the fire must burn. That is where the change must show. Because life is not measured by the intensity of the moments you've lived, but by how those moments reshape the way you live every single day after. Remember this: strength is not the absence of weakness. It is the courage to rise even when weakness is crushing you. Peace is not found in a quiet room. It is found in the storm when you refuse to let the chaos enter your soul. Success is not the applause of the crowd. It is the quiet knowing that you lived true to your values when no one was watching. That is the essence of recalibration. It takes you from chasing shadows to walking in light, from fighting for attention to living with purpose. You must remind yourself every morning, life is not a rehearsal, this is it. No second draft, no retake. So don't live small, don't live blind, don't live trapped in other people's expectations. You were not created to be average. You were created to be alive, to leave an imprint, to be a spark in someone else's darkness. Think of the people who inspired you most in life. It wasn't their wealth, it wasn't their possessions. It was their energy, their presence, their authenticity. And you have that same capacity. Every challenge you face now is a test of whether your soul has truly been recalibrated. When you lose something, remember gratitude is the door to strength. When you are hurt, forgiveness is not weakness. It is the ultimate proof that no one controls your peace but you. When you are ignored or underestimated, remind yourself the world doesn't get to decide your value. You do. Stand tall in silence, and your presence will speak louder than any words. The greatest battle is not against others, it is against the version of yourself that refuses to grow. And every day you conquer that version, you rise higher. So choose discipline over excuses, resilience over complaints, faith over fear. Yes, fear will whisper in your ear, but let your vision speak louder. Yes, doubt will try to break your spirit, but let your actions silence it. Yes, the world may not always applaud, but live in such a way that even in silence, you hear the applause of your own heart. Remember the power of presence. A calm mind in chaos is magnetic. A disciplined soul in a distracted world is unforgettable. A heart rooted in gratitude in an age of entitlement is rare beyond measure. Be that rare presence. Let people feel your peace without you saying a word. Let your consistency become your signature. Let your light become your legacy. Ask yourself, what will they remember when I'm gone? Will they remember the car I drove, the house I owned, the money I made? Or will they remember the kindness I gave, the strength I carried, the hope I inspired? Live for what outlives you, because everything else is temporary. Life will keep testing you. Life will keep shaking you. Life will keep trying to distract you. But the one who has recalibrated their soul cannot be broken, cannot be bought, cannot be moved by shallow temptations. They walk steady, they live intentionally, they breathe purpose with every step. So here is the truth that will echo in your bones forever. Storms don't break you, they build you. Losses don't end you, they reveal you. And silence isn't emptiness, it is where you find your power. Never forget, you were not made to just exist. You were made to matter, and the world will never be the same once you decide to live like it.